Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. I am Sarah Maslowski with KeyPoint Homes Group, your North Metro Atlanta real estate agent. And today we are going to be talking about everything that is ahead in 2025 and talking about whether or not the Atlanta housing market isn't doomed. So we're going to get into all that. But first, I have to tell you, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Thanks for joining me. I'd love to know if you're doing anything fun or you're celebrating. We are actually going to be going up to Indianapolis to see my in-laws up there. So unfortunately, no snow this year. So I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, but it's not going to happen. So yeah, let me know where you're watching from. Tell me where you're going to be celebrating the holidays. Let me know. So oftentimes, speaking of snow, I always get questions from people that are looking to move here, and they ask me like, "Hey, does it ever snow in Georgia?" And it does occasionally. And when I say snow, you're going to laugh. It's just flurries. So it's just one day, maybe like 1 hour of flurries that happen. It's very exciting. It's a huge event here in Georgia. The schools will shut down because, the buses can't handle any type of ice on the road. We just don't have the equipment that you do in other states. So yeah, the news is going to talk about it for multiple days. The schools will preemptively cancel school very early on, and oftentimes it's much ado about nothing. And, occasionally we actually do get some snow. So that is what the snow forecast is here. But usually every single year there's like one day of flurries. So fingers crossed that happens. Usually I see that happening in February. As a girl who grew up in South Georgia, where snow never happened except for one time. I can't remember how old I was, but really, really young. That's the only time I ever remember it happened. It was like some freak accident. So yes, that's what you can expect here if you're moving here in the winter. I'm sure like most of you, I don't know if it was warmer in other parts of the country today, but the thermostat on the car got up to 80 degrees, y'all. And it's December 18th. So yeah, let me know where you're watching from. Say hello. Tell me what the weather is like where you are. So one big piece of news that you may have heard today is the Fed announced that they were cutting the Fed interest rate. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. And it's the perfect segue into kind of what's ahead for 2025. And so we're going to get in today and kind of talk about how that's going to impact the market today, what it's already done today, and then how that's going to impact mortgage interest rates in the future. We got BW joining us, thinking about moving to Georgia from New Jersey. Tons of questions. This is what the live stream is for. So, okay. Sorry. Let me adjust my camera back. Okay. There we go. Got a little bit too excited, BW. But yeah, go ahead and ask questions. I'm here to help answer any of those for you. And yeah, we have helped a lot of folks from New Jersey relocate here to Georgia. It's one of the most popular states that we get a lot of clients from. New Jersey, Florida, Texas, California used to be up there, but not so much anymore these days. So yeah, happy to be here. 42 in Central Kentucky. We're supposed to get in the 40s tomorrow here, I believe, a cold spell, and it just rained a little bit, which we haven't had rain in a long time. But looking forward to that colder weather, but 42 sounds really cold right now. Okay, so the Fed cut their interest rates today. So the Fed rate is not directly tied to mortgage interest rates, but usually a lot of the times when the Fed talks about cutting the Fed interest rate, because it's tied to mortgage-backed securities and treasury bonds and a lot of other stuff that is just as clear as mud to me, interest rates do sometimes kind of follow that same pattern. However, the last two times that the Fed has cut the interest rates, back in November and in December, the opposite actually happened. We actually had rates increase. So I'm going to share this article with you. Give me just a minute here while I get that up. You would think after doing this for so long, I would be better at bouncing back and forth between all the great news that I'm going to share with you today. So The mortgage rates actually jumped abruptly higher after the Fed's rate cut. And from all the research today, it pretty much boiled down to the fact that the Fed indicated that they are not going to have as many cuts in the future as what they were anticipating in 2025. So they let the market know that they're anticipating 2 rate cuts in 2025. We were expecting more rate cuts in 2025. So the market reacted to that information and mortgage rates went higher. So it says the average lender is at least almost a fifth a percent higher than earlier this morning. And this is a good conversation for us to have about when to lock interest rates. And it's really important of why you have a really great lender on your side, because really great lenders are in the rates every single, 15 minutes, day in, day out. And they know what's coming down the pipeline, or they know how to interpret this data, and they know how to call you and say, hey, the Fed's about to announce something tomorrow. All indications are that this is not going to be good for interest rates. We think that you need to go ahead and lock in your interest rate. When you're working with big national lenders, Rocket Mortgage, some of these other companies, I just can't guarantee that you're going to get that same level of service or that same knowledge level that they're looking out for your bottom dollar. So what this means is that if you put a house under contract yesterday and your lender quoted you a rate yesterday, and then you haven't had a conversation with that lender to put or to lock in that interest rate, if you were to do that tomorrow or later on this afternoon after the Fed announced this, then you're paying a fifth of a percent higher than what you would have just a few hours ago. And let me tell you, that sucks. So let's talk about why. It says the mortgage rate spike has nothing to do with the Fed's rate cut. There's only a small part of the information that was only baked into a small part. Y'all, this is really as clear as mud. However, it says that the Fed communicates its outlook 4 times a year via the economic projections. And based on these projections, they're saying like, hey, we're only going to do this twice in 2025 that we're predicting, because things are not moving the way that we thought they would in terms of job growth, or it's growing too well. Inflation is not getting under control. All of those things wrap up into mortgage rates. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how that's going to impact you in 2025. And of course, if you have any thoughts or opinions on this, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to get your feedback or get a different perspective, or, see what you think. So let me show you where all the big economists are predicting that mortgage interest rates are going to go in 2025. I know people say this every year, but y'all just feel like this year has just really flown by? I think it has. Let me get that down. Let me get that down too. Here we go. Okay, mortgage rate projections. All right, so you can see that in 2024, fourth quarter here, they're anticipating us to end. This was from a few weeks ago. They were predicting for us to end close to 7%. It looks like Wells Fargo here is going to be a little bit closer on the money with those projections, because right now, as it stands as of today, we're creeping back up to that 7% mark. So you can see 2025, if we're lucky, if we get to the end of the fourth quarter next year, hopefully this time next year, I'm making a video about what's ahead in 2026, and the mortgage rates are in the low sixes, 6.3, 6.25. This is not the news that we thought we were going to be talking about a year ago this time. I'd have to go back and put together a split screen as to what they were predicting last year versus this year. But earlier this year, taking and synthesizing all of this data, the message was, hey, yeah, rates are going to suck right now, but sometime in 2025, you're going to have a chance to refinance your mortgage. We're going to be in the high fives. You're going to be able to really capture a lot of savings then. It's still predicted to be on the horizon, but as you can see, they're predicting that these mortgage rates are going to fall a lot slower than what everyone wanted in 2023. So what does this mean for home prices? Because I'm sure we're really curious about that, of how that's going to affect home prices. So this is the 2025 home price forecast. This information was from, I think my head's in the way, I can't tell. Well, they're aggregating a bunch of economists here from a lot of different sources. But overall, if you take the average of all those three, they're expecting home prices to rise 3%. So not a huge change. So just to put it in perspective, a normal healthy amount of home price appreciation is between 4 and 6%. In a lot of areas, we've been way above that for the past couple of years. So it didn't feel as painful to have 10, 20% year over year home price appreciation when mortgage rates were 3%. But now when we have mortgage rates almost at 7%, plus we have these home prices that have not fallen, they've held on to their value, and now they're slowly starting to still appreciate even more. That's a significant amount of more money that you're paying for a house now than what you were paying a couple of years ago. And so I want to share with you, let's see here, what's happened specifically in the metro Atlanta area over the past year so that you can see what the home prices are there. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to navigate everything for y'all. Share screen. Okay, here we go. All right, so here we are looking at the median sales price, and I have 4 different suburbs pulled up here. We have Cumming, and so if you look over here at Cumming, year over year, if we're looking at end of November of 2024 versus 2023, home prices are up almost 7% compared to last year. We've got Alpharetta in yellow, almost 10% year over year. Swanee, just over 5%, and Gainesville, 7.5%. So not the drastic swings that we've seen in 2020, 2021, and 2022, but still a very, very healthy rate of growth, in some areas a little bit above normal. I think the biggest thing to pay attention to, and that kind of stood out to me, was looking at the percentage of original list price. So what this is factoring into is that regardless of price decreases, or if the house had a price decrease at all, if that house, let's say, was listed at originally $500,000, but it sold at $490,000, and they reduced the price to $490,000, and then they got a full price offer at $490,000, really the original list price was at $500,000. So I like to look at the original list price because we can kind of see what sellers are thinking and how close are they getting to their go-to-market price on their home. And so the good thing is that most markets are down year over year. Swanee area is down 2%. But what kind of stood out to me is that if you look at the years of 2021 and 2022, of course, bidding wars, we were paying way over asking for homes to get them under contract. Interest rates started rising, and we started, having a little bit more volatility in the market, and buyers having a little bit more leverage to negotiate home prices. And then you see where it kind of flattens out here, especially for Swanee and Alpharetta and the Cumming area. If you take a look at when that happened, that is happening in March, April, May, June, July, August, and then it starts to taper off. We're getting back to more seasonality in the market. So the spring market is the hottest time to buy a house, and this is when you're essentially going to pay the most for a home. Back last year in Cumming, Alpharetta, and Swanee in May, the median sales to list price average was 100%. If you take a look at what that is right now, you're at 98%. Gainesville's 96.5%. Well, I say right now, this was the winter of 2024. If we go to what we're looking at right now, it's even a little bit better, 97%. So if you have the ability to buy a house now, I think it's such a great idea to try to go ahead and get a home now, because you have more bargaining power as a buyer than what you are going to in the spring. So one of the things that I'm seeing right now in realtor Facebook groups here locally in the area is a lot of agents posting like, hey, my house is not getting any showings. Traffic is dead. No one's coming to the open house. What are you seeing? And a lot of agents are responding like, yes, we're seeing the same thing. We're seeing the same thing. And then you also have some agents that say, no, I just listed a house last week and it went for multiple offers. Well, typically in those situations, we're looking at really hot housing market areas like Alpharetta and Cumming. Usually the home is priced well. And the third factor is that usually it's in really great condition. So sellers are a little bit naive to the condition that their home has to be in because, the past 3-4 years, they've seen their neighbors put their home up for sale, not really do anything to it, and get really great prices for their homes. And they're kind of thinking they can do the same thing. Just recently negotiated on a home for a buyer who's the listing agent. They've had this home on and off the market over the past 6-7 months. They finally took it off the market at a lower price, but the home still needs quite a bit of updates. And this seller is being incredibly stubborn about what they expect to get. And they have plans to relist this house in a few weeks and try to get more money for it. Make that make sense. It doesn't make sense. And I think right now sellers are shooting themselves in the foot if they do not take advantage of buyers that are currently in the market. BW, why's that not working? Okay, here we go. We're considering locations with good schools such as Lambert High, North Gwinnett, Johns Creek area. Which would you recommend for the lowest property tax and cost appreciation? So those are all in really great areas. You're going to pay a lot in property taxes in that area. So on average, the property tax rate there is about 1.2%. Johns Creek area is going to be much more expensive than the North Gwinnett area. If you're really looking to kind of get the bang for your buck, I would really consider looking into Forsyth County, which is Cumming. So you've got really great, highly rated schools there. And their effective property tax rate is about 0.8%, so significantly less expensive. And you still get really great housing options there and really, really great schools. So this would kind of be a good segue into the population growth in the Metro Atlanta area. Let me show you something. Let's see here. Okay, so this is a study that was done by the Atlanta Regional Commission. So it's almost 14, 15 different counties that make up the metropolitan Atlanta area. And they're predicting that they expect the Metro Atlanta population to reach 7.9 million by 2050. And one of those fastest growing counties is going to be Forsyth County. They're expecting the population to grow by 80%. This is fantastic for home price appreciation. It's also really good for home sales. Obviously, these people need somewhere to go. So if you have the ability to invest in there now, it's really, really great. But it is one of the fastest growing counties. You'll see Gwinnett's already the largest county in Georgia, population wise. Well, I take that back. Second to Fulton County. And it's growing by 25%. But there's a lot of good growth happening in Forsyth County, and it's already really great. And one of the reasons that has spurred that growth in Forsyth County is because of the fact that so many people love Alpharetta and they want to be in Alpharetta because of the great shopping, great restaurants, parks, great schools. It's beautiful, and it's so expensive to live there. Home prices are, on average 900,000 plus, whereas that same house in Cumming, 700-ish or so, and you can still get really great neighborhoods and school districts in Cumming for around 500,000, and you cannot find that in Alpharetta. You can, but it's going to be a house that needs significant amount of work. So that's definitely an area that I would spend a little bit more time in. But if all things are equal and, we have the budget for it, the Johns Creek area is really great as well. The month of the spring market, things start kind of in February, early, people try to get ahead of sellers try to get ahead of the spring market and list in February because they want to not compete with um, all of their neighbors that are wanting to sell. What you often find in this area, especially in hot housing markets, coming Alpharetta, Swanee area, Johns Creek, someone may list their house for sale in March or be willing to take a contract on their house early in the spring season. But in the private notes, realtor to realtor, it may say they want to stay in the house and finish out the school year. So a lot of times when I have clients that are relocating from other parts of the country, you're wanting to finish out the school year where you are, the timing can be really great because you have that great flexibility where you don't have to be in a house within the next 30 days and we can kind of plan and work around it. So great question. Gainesville versus Snellville. Which one is better to buy an investment property? Budget's around 300. That's a great question. And I am going to vote for Gainesville. And here's why. Snellville has some affordable houses. You can find a lot of homes in the lower 300s in the Snellville area that would be good rentals, or there's going to be a strong demand for rentals. And on that note, there's a strong demand for rentals everywhere in the metro Atlanta area. Partly it's because of that population growth. Atlanta is the third largest metro area that has experienced the most amount of growth, or the third most growth over the past decade, behind Houston and Dallas. So what that translates into is people need a bunch of places to live. And that's why when you drive around any of these areas, you're going to see neighborhood development after neighborhood development, apartment complexes, and you're going to hear locals complaining about all of this. But we have to have some place for people to live, right? We have to meet this demand. While Gwinnett County has a large population, I'm going to make the argument that Snellville is very much of an older town, a lot of older houses, a lot of neighborhoods that have turned into a lot of big rental communities. And we all know that renters don't typically tend to take care of the homes as well as what an owner would. So you're going to find some more affordable options there, more abundant options there, but long-term return on your investment, I'm not a fan. So, but there's also some great pockets of Snellville that are zoned for really great schools, really great neighborhoods. So I don't want to, knock on Snellville. I'm just saying that in the view of that 300,000 price point. All right, Clara, Roswell versus Cumming or Roswell versus Sugar Hill. So, great areas and people love all of them. Sugar Hill often gets overlooked because it's so tiny and it's right in between Beaufort and Swanee. And so the geographic size of the town is not that big. And most people don't really realize that they're in Sugar Hill. You just kind of like zip right by it. Cute little, I would say, downtown area. It's like a little shopping area with a theater, and they've got an amphitheater there, but an actual theater that you can go watch movies in. Great coffee shops, some cute little restaurants right there. So all three of those areas are great. I would say you're going to find more affordable homes or more abundant options of houses in the Cumming area, depending upon your budget, in Cumming versus Roswell. The reason for that is Roswell is an older town. The closer you get into Atlanta, the more developed, like fully developed, these towns are. And so usually you're left with a lot of older homes. Home prices in general are more expensive closer to Atlanta because of a lot of people that need to commute into the city and they want to live in the suburbs because of the great schools, neighborhoods, all those things. So home prices there naturally are going to be more expensive. So you're going to get more bang for your buck in terms of housing incoming. And I think it's really one of those things where you just have to drive around, see your options, see what feels like home or doesn't feel like home. So that's what I would recommend doing. Okay, how can you find out if a house has an HOA? Do not want an HOA. So a lot of times on Zillow, you'll see What are we doing? Sorry. I have a new camera, y'all. And I think it has like hand motions. Hang on. This is really close. Oh goodness. Okay. On Zillow, I'm going to try to mess with this in the background. Ooh. Y'all. Okay. This is Hot Mess Express. Okay. On Zillow, you are going to be able to see whether or not they have listed for HOA fees. And you can also get set up on a great search from someone like me who can filter out those houses so that you are only getting homes with no HOAs. Sometimes we have, just going to sit back like this so you aren't just staring so close at my face. Occasionally we have some neighborhoods that have optional HOAs. And so those optional HOAs will give you either access to a pool, or maybe they have, I don't know what they have. They just keep up with the entrance and it's optional, but they usually don't have any restrictive covenants in those neighborhoods. Oh, this is getting them. All right, I'm gonna have to get a producer to help with this, which I don't have. So we'll get one. Okay. Oh, here we go. Hold on. I'm almost there. Oh, there we go. Yay. Okay, I'm going to try not to move my hands too much because that way that won't happen again. Okay. All right. So that answers that question. A lot of times those areas are not filled out. So usually if it's not filled out, it's because it does not have an HOA. So that's a good indication. If there's nothing in there, if it's left blank, the only way a number populates in that field in Zillow is if they're pulling it from the HOA field in the MLS systems. So occasionally you have some agents that mess up and they may say it doesn't have an HOA when it really does. But I would say 80% of the time it's safe to kind of trust that. But I'm happy to set you up on a search so that kind of learn more about your criteria and really make sure that you're getting some really great homes that are fitting what you're looking for. BW says in New Jersey, we're still seeing all cash offers and selling 10 to 20% above asking. Are we seeing the same? I want to buy first and then sell, but can only put down 10%. Great question. And in some areas, yes, we are still seeing competitive offers, not nearly, it sounds like as robust as maybe what you're seeing there in New Jersey. In the Alpharetta, Suwanee, Cumming, sometimes Johns Creek area, when a house is in really great condition, priced well, in a really sought after neighborhood, it's going to go quickly for top dollar. Maybe a tiny bit over asking, but again, nothing like what we experienced back during the pandemic. Great question. If you have the ability to buy first before selling, it makes life so much easier. But one strategy that you can do to kind of help alleviate this problem, you can put down the 10%, finance the house, close the loan. When you sell your house, and I'm assuming that you're probably going to get another good chunk of change that ideally you would want to put towards the principal and have a lower balance on your mortgage, you can do what's called a recast. So the lender can then apply that additional down payment 2-3 months down the road and restructure your loan at that new lower loan balance. And so that's a good win, or a good, easy way to kind of make the best out of the situation and still put you in a really good financial situation so that you can take advantage of the additional funds that you're getting from the sale of your house. And I have some really great, fantastic local lenders that I can connect you with that are so smart, and everything I've learned is from them. So sometimes they'll come up with some better ideas or some additional knowledge of what may make more sense in your situation. Another great question. With the NAR settlement, are we still seeing, are you seeing the buyer paying for their agent's commission? No. For the most part, we are still seeing a lot of sellers still offering to compensate the buy side or the buyer's agent compensation. And mostly sellers are still choosing to do that because they want to be as competitive as possible. Things have shifted a little bit more into a buyer's market here in the Metro Atlanta area. And so buyers are having a little bit more leverage, more choices, and they're already kind of combating higher interest rates. So we're still seeing that sellers that want to sell their houses, they're still saying like, hey, yes, we're offering compensation, and let's get this deal done. So one of the things, and this is really good for everyone to know, when you are now shopping for a house, you are going to have to sign a showing agreement with your agent. So with the buyer's agent that is representing you. And basically that agreement is stating that, hey, I'm going to tell you upfront how I, as a buyer's agent, get paid. That way you have full transparency. And so that agent's going to say, hey, this is my fee. If for some reason the seller doesn't pay this fee, yes, you would be responsible. And any great agent is going to never put you in that situation where you don't know what you're getting into ahead of time. So what's kind of changed on the back end for us as agents is now we are having to reach out and call all the listing agents for houses that we're interested in seeing or showing to clients and say, hey, what is the seller offering? And getting that information and coming back to you as a client and say, hey, out of these 5 houses today that we're seeing, all of the sellers are paying my fee, no need to worry. Or, hey, this house said they're willing to negotiate, just put it into the offer. And so those are things that we would definitely strategize about, but you would never be in a situation where you don't have full transparency, knowing before you go into a home what, if any, financial obligation you would have for your agent, or at least that's how agents, in my opinion, should be approaching things. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Also, be super, super careful, y'all. Buyers, before you sign any agreement with an agent, make sure you understand what that form is. So it is true that we now have to have signed agreements before we are allowed to show you a house. And that can just be an agreement saying, hey, I'm agreeing to show you houses for this weekend. Or it could be a full-fledged buyer's agency agreement where you're saying like, hey, you are hiring me to be your real estate agent. And this agreement says that I'm going to be your agent for the next 3 or 4 months. So just make sure you know that you feel great about the agent that you're working with before you lock down that buyer's agency agreement or fully understand. I oftentimes have clients that reach out to me saying, hey, we'd like to work with you. We started working with another agent and, we're just not happy with how things have gone, or we don't feel like it's been a good fit. And then they'll mention an offer that they've made. And so I'll say, hey, did you sign any buyer's agency paperwork? And they're like, no. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure you did. So I tell them to go back, show them kind of what to look for. And every single time that we've had that conversation, that client or that buyer has signed that buyer's agency agreement. And I just want to make sure that y'all know what you're signing or what you have there. So great question. Yeah. So we were talking about rental market for the Metro Atlanta area. And I get this question a lot from potential clients that reach out saying, hey, we want to buy an investment property. Which area is good, or is the Metro Atlanta area a good place to put our dollars? And so I want to share with you some more information as to why, and don't just take my word for it. I want you to take some other people's word for it, people with a ton more money. So which way am I going? Sorry. Okay. My apologies. Okay. This is kind of shocking to me. There's another. Sorry, trying to look at what I have here. Okay. This really started to pop up a lot during the pandemic. I, as a listing agent, started noticing this in 2020. I had houses listed for sale, and I would get these really great offers on these houses, cash offers from companies saying, we want to buy your house, cash close, 2 weeks, no appraisal. We will do an inspection, but we're not going to ask for any repairs. And I mean, these were like really strong, good offers. And put yourselves in a seller's shoes. You are trying to sell your house and you get this cash offer that is asking price or incredibly close to it. and you have a guaranteed sale. Why wouldn't you take it? Um, and I started to notice this one company pop up again and again and again, making these really great offers. And it was prior to kind of like 2020. You had investment companies making offers on houses, but typically it was like Open Door, Redfin used to buy houses, and they would give you a cash guaranteed offer on your house. And let's just use a $500,000 house, and the offer would be for like 440, and then they had to take out their fees. So you're probably like walking away with like 410. And for some people, that need to sell quickly, that was a good deal. Most oftentimes, you could put that same $500,000 home on the market, probably after fees. As a seller, you're walking away with, 475 in your pocket. And because the housing market was so strong back then, I could guarantee that, hey, if we go to market, I can get you more money than what this cash offer is. However, when we started listing these houses and seeing some of these offers come through from some of these other companies, it's like, what is going on? This is not the norm for these other investment companies that we had previously gotten offers from. So this started happening more and more and more. And it got to the point where companies were paying over asking price for these houses and making these incredibly great offers that as listing agents, we couldn't say, hey, yeah, I can guarantee you more money by going to the market. We're like, oh, this is really good. You should probably take this. And the trend that started happening were that all of these investment companies started buying up houses in the metro Atlanta area. And now, according to a study, these companies own more than 51,000 single family rental homes in the metro Atlanta area. Gwinnett County has the most, Henry County being the second highest. So that is a ton of inventory that has been bought up over the past couple of years. And mostly they've been bought by these companies right here: Invitation Homes, AMH Homes, Tricon Residential, Home Partners of America, Progress Residential, First Key Homes. That's the company that I used to like working for because they made really great offers. Not working for, but getting offers from. So they own 51,000, and it accounts for 97% of the rental inventory that these big hedge fund backed companies have. And the reason that they've chosen to buy up all of this inventory in the metro Atlanta area is because of how great the population growth is here, how great the job market is here. The need and demand for houses is so strong here. And that has led to all of these companies buying up all of these houses. But if you think about it, and this is the part that is super frustrating for me as an agent, let me add this. Yeah. So this is where a study done in 2022 where corporations owned single family rental. And if you look across the entire country, there's a huge concentration in the metro Atlanta area. It's the most, 25%. The next highest is in Jacksonville. So if these big, huge corporations are spending millions and billions of dollars on 51,000 homes here in the area, safe to say that this is a pretty darn good place to invest money. But the huge negative downside to this for home buyers in the future, next year, for the next generation, these corporations are never selling these houses. They are holding them for rental income. And what sucks is that a lot of these homes that were bought were homes that were in the 200s, $300,000 price point, 350, homes that would traditionally be first-time home buyer houses. All of those homes essentially are now gone. So now what I see a lot is that in order to get a decent first-time home buyer property, or what typically attracts a first-time home buyer, you're having to spend at least $350, if not more, to get a house that does not need a ton of work, that you can just kind of do cosmetic fixes to in great areas with good schools, Now, you can find some in the lower 300s. It's just going to be in areas that, it's not going to be the best, or your neighbors may not take as great care of home as what you would. There's just a lot of factors in play. So this kind of goes into the bigger thing of like, is the real estate market doomed? And it's really hard as a real estate agent wanting to help a lot of clients and get people into houses, is those first-time home buyer homes are not there, or you're going to have to earn significantly more to be able to get the new first-time home buyer house. And especially with the way interest rates are, it's just so frustrating. All that to say, this area is such a great area to invest in, and home prices are not going to get any cheaper. I see properties on Zillow with property taxes for $4,000 a year. That's listed at $8,000. If I buy that house, does that mean that the properties can increase? Yes. So property taxes here are a pain in the butt. Why are we doing this again? Okay. I think I can adjust it faster now this time. Okay. Sorry, y'all. Bear with me. Okay. I think we're good. Let me go back. Yes. Okay. You're seeing that $4,000. It could be one of two things. One, that homeowner could be over the age of 65 or have veterans discount on their property tax bill, or a senior exemption on their property tax bill, which if they do have that, in some counties, it reduces your property tax bill significantly. So they could have that. If they don't have that, and we can take a look at property tax bills, and I can kind of show you how to pick that out or notice that. But a lot of the times it's based off of what the county has the home assessed or valued at. And so oftentimes you'll find homes that are listed for $900,000. You go to the county tax records, the county only has it valued at a $480,000 house, which it's not worth 480. It is worth, what it's selling for. And from a property tax perspective, that's great because you want the tax assessor to give your home a lower tax basis value. That way you're not having to pay as much property taxes. Now, sometimes that home, once it's sold and the county gets record of, hey, now this home sold for $850, they can adjust their valuation to $850 because they have a fair market recent value sale. They don't always do that. And in fact, I would say that's more or less likely the case. I would say about 75% of the times it does go up higher, but not to the level at which you paid for it. And each county does it a tiny bit differently, but there's algorithms and formulas and neighborhood values and all kind of different factors that get put into that. But if I were budgeting, I would budget for that worst case scenario just so that you know what it could go up to. Long-winded, but I hope that helped. All right, let's look a little bit more about what's going to happen this year. We talked about the mortgage rate predictions, home price forecast, 3 to 5%. Some areas are going to be a little bit higher than that. I would anticipate that Suwannee, Cumming, Alpharetta, Johns Creek area are probably going to be closer to that 7-8% this year. This was an interesting slide to me, or stat talking about the amount of houses that are being built, apartment complexes. And a lot of times I hear locals say, what are we going to do with all these developments? Or how are they going to fill up all these apartments? At the end of the day, we're not overbuilding. Builders are just trying to catch up with the demand of what happened due to the housing crisis or the recession back in 2006, 2007. Tons of builders went under, got out of the market permanently for good. A lot of smaller mom and pop builders got out of the market. They never returned because lending regulations became so much tougher. Development restrictions, all those types of things made it so much harder to build and develop neighborhoods and houses. And as you can see, that inventory for the past 15 years, we've been severely underbuilding than what we should. So that is why when you look at population growth based on corporations owning 50,000 houses in the metro Atlanta area, and you put all these things together, it is definitely leads to still a housing shortage, even though sometimes the numbers may not effectively kind of reflect that. Yes, Claire, I will be back in the office after Christmas. I'm definitely available to help in the coming days and would love to help you and your family. We can set something up. And if you're watching this like Clara and you want to connect, I would love to be your real estate agent. Um, and you can find my contact information directly below this video in the pinned comment. There's a link there where you can fill out a form. We can get something scheduled so that we can learn more about each other. If you don't already like and follow my channel, please do. We put out new videos every single Monday about the area, everything that you need to know. And also, if you're not following me over on Instagram, having fun over there, showing off all kinds of new developments and restaurants and things that are happening in the area. So, a lot more frequent local information, fun places to eat, go, do, all the things over there on Instagram. So, you can find me there too. And I'd love to connect. If you have any questions before we wrap up here, let me know. Make sure you put those in the comments and we'll make sure to get to them. But yeah, overall, my thoughts on 2025 for the real estate market here in the Metro Atlanta area. I don't think we're doomed. It's not going to be as strong as it has been in years past. I personally think that's a great thing, not only for, well, mostly for buyers, right? We're dealing with having to battle higher interest rates. And in perspective, historically, the interest rate is still somewhat normal. It's not normal for what we felt like for the past couple of years, but that 3-4% interest rate that we've had was because of a global pandemic. We don't want a global pandemic to happen again. So I think we'll take normal interest rates over a global pandemic. Redfin kind of agrees with the overall sentiment of the aggregate data from that other chart. They're anticipating home prices to rise 4% over the next year. And again, take this into, we're talking about the entire country, right? Not just the Metro Atlanta area. They are a little bit more pessimistic about interest rates in 2025 than the data that we looked at from the average of the others. And they're anticipating higher rates. So net, sorry, cut out there because I can't do my buttons today. Net, I would say, and I've been saying this for, I feel like 6 months now. Waiting is not going to make the house more affordable if all things are equal. So if you know that you're moving, go ahead and buy. If you don't know that you're moving or you really can't make the numbers work, obviously we don't want you to do something that puts you in a bad financial position, but waiting for the market to change is not going to happen. And in fact, it could happen for the worse and put you in a situation where you can't now afford to make that move that you wanted to. And it is unfortunate, but we have the ability to always refinance in the future, but we always want to make sure that we can afford the numbers as they are today. So we can always capture the lower interest rate in the future. We can't capture the home price, or we can't retroactively go back and get the home price. You know what I'm trying to say. Ellen, thanks for joining. Are you a realtor? Silver tsunami. You mean a bunch of like retirees happening here in the area, or maybe boomers downsizing, selling their house, and then a surge of inventory? I'm not sure. I'll have to do some research on that. If that's the case, I don't see that. In fact, I often kind of meet with potential clients who want to downsize, and they think, hey, we have this nice big house that we see our neighbors selling their homes for $600,000-$700,000. We bought this house for $150 back in 2020, and Then they, talk about how they want to go downsize, and then they look at what's out there for them. Nice houses, but they're also going to spend 600,000 on the new house to downsize, and they're saying, "Well, this doesn't seem fair. Selling a 3,500 square foot home on a finished basement in a great school district neighborhood, and to go get a 2-bedroom, 1,800 square foot home that's nice, I'm spending that same amount of money." So for the most part, I'm not seeing many sellers choose to do that, or it takes them a while to kind of come around to the marrying that fact that by them selling their bigger house doesn't equate to a cheaper house, if that makes sense. If anything, what we're seeing here is a lot of people from other parts of the country choosing to retire here in Georgia and move here in Georgia. So you see quite a bit of active adult communities being developed here in the metro Atlanta area. There is one in Gainesville that is currently in the development stage. They haven't released lots or pricing or anything like that, but it's going to be a huge 200 single family community. And they're also building like I don't know the term for it, assisted living facility as well, or hybrid facility there. And you see a lot of developers and big corporations putting these developments up here in the area. So I wouldn't count on that. So great question though. Thanks for joining. All right, y'all. I hope you have a very, very Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy New Year if I don't see you until the new year. You know where to find me on Instagram. Please reach out and connect if you're thinking about making a move. It's never too early to connect. Oftentimes, earlier is always better, because sometimes I can share with you an idea you hadn't thought of, or we can preemptively stave off a problem or something like that. So, yep, love to connect. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. And yeah, you'll have a very, very Merry Christmas. Bye, y'all.